So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker of the conference, our CTO of Eficode, Marko Klemetti. Marko's keynote, entitled The Three Faces of DevOps, looks at three perspectives of DevOps, from top-level management to shifting left on security. Marko, over to you.
Last October, a bit over 4 months ago, Josh Wardle released a game he had written for his partner. In the beginning of November, 90 people played the game. Beginning of January, 2 months later, 300,000 people played the game. In the end of January, 45 million people played the game. This is also when New York Times purchased the game. The game is exactly as I would like it, a wordplay on its name, Wordle. Quite a startup story. With the emergence of the new DevOps services, not just tooling, delivering new innovations has never been this fast and effortless. Today, we live in the next DevOps era. If we look back just 2 years, there have been 3 key factors to the acceleration of DevOps services and offering. COVID has forced us to find ways to work remotely, both in collaboration and in automation. At the same time, organizational structures have changed, making team topologies one of the key success factors of modern DevOps. Majority of organizations have implemented the basic DevOps and cloud tooling. And most of them have foundations of healthy practices in place. This in hand has led to less infrastructure. What before was built as tooling is now run as a service and is easier to scale across the organization. Actually, this area has progressed so well that latest Puppet State of DevOps report even questioned if automation and cloud should be included in the modern DevOps at all. Everybody is already doing them, and still most of them are not progressing in their DevOps capabilities. As a disclaimer, the elite performers are also the most likely to have the extensive automation and cloud in place. Novel innovations around DevOps tooling have emerged amidst all, such as AI-assisted development and fully automated delivery platforms. With the availability of DevOps tools and practices, and even while delivering new services has become easier, it can be claimed that developing new services has become harder. The tooling environment is in a massive change, and developers have to understand more and more tools and configurations to be able to develop digital services. This, on the other hand, has led to extra cognitive load. When creating Wordle, Josh Wardle represented business, software development, and IT at the same time. He was all of it. In the organizations that still struggle to get the most out of DevOps today, the problem is not the tools, nor the difficulty of implementing them, but the end-to-end value chains and managing value creation through the organization. Thus, DevOps is not about the new tools and practices. Instead, it's about measuring and improving value chains together with everyone in the company. It's about cutting through the cognitive load and enabling teams to deliver early. My name is Marko Klemetti. I am the CTO of Eficode, And we have had the privilege to work with more than 1,000 organizations, giving me the front row seat to see the change in organizations globally. I found this cool dichroic cube and decided to represent it as a metaphor for digital organizations of today. I'll show it against the Larry the duck, so you'll see the colors. The first one is for end-to-end value streams, the business thinking. The second one is for innovating and developer experience. And the third one is for consolidation of the tooling and platforms on top of which organizations operate today. Next, I'm going to look at the opportunities each of these axes presents and what businesses can achieve by combining them. Last year, in my keynote, I used beer breweries as an example of consuming DevOps services instead of trying to build, configure, and maintain all of the tooling yourself. This year, I'm happy to share with you that the largest brewery in the world, AB InBev, a company we've been working together with, has been able to do exactly that. Each part of their organizational structure has scaled their cloud, DevOps, CI/CD capabilities with the help of modern services. And even while they represent a very traditional industry, quite literally, they are one of the leaders in the digital service delivery capabilities. Today, they can build value streams through these high-functioning organizational parts and work as a great example of an organization that's working hard to build even better end-to-end customer experiences. In all modern organizations, it's not enough for the single organizational part to function well. But the end user value is created when the value streams flow through each unit. It's important to put focus on the end user value instead of trying to only serve the internal customer requirements between units or teams. Electric vehicles have the OTA, or over-the-air update capability. Imagine if it was used only in the development phase of the vehicles, or if it was used only in the garage by the mechanics. Sounds stupid, but that's essentially what we often end up doing when developing digital services in big organizations. Self-made DevOps tools are a fantastic example of this pattern. I talked about Westrom last year, and I will continue talking about him in the future as well. With the cultural typologies he defined, the leading organizations continue moving towards the generative direction, thus increasing 4 key areas of modern organizations. The first one, collaboration. Second one, sharing risks. That's where essentially Dev and Ops started from. Collaboration, sharing risks. Third, looking for root causes of failures and possible solutions instead of blaming. And fourth, growing novelty and fostering innovation across the organization. This also means that when you find root causes for failures, or when you create new innovations in your organization, you will search for ways to share those across your whole organization. To give an example, GitLab has a very extensive handbook of their organization and culture. It's completely publicly available, so you can just Google it. From that handbook, you can find many examples of their efforts of being a generative organization, and many of them can be also implemented in your organization. DevOps topologies changed our perception of how DevOps should be implemented in organizations roughly 9 years ago. Today, the same is happening with team topologies. The authors of DevOps topologies, Manuel Pei and Matthew Skelton, wrote a book, Team Topologies, which was published a bit over 2 years ago. It has become even more relevant now in the middle of remote working. It gives a very good description into how companies should organize themselves to reach the self-organized and fast-delivering team compositions. It also addresses really well how organizations should focus on internal and external value streams. Not all teams should serve the end users, even while the organizational focus should be there. According to the book, teams should organize themselves to 4 primary team topologies: to decrease the cognitive load, enable healthier culture, and build shorter release cycles. The team interaction should then be built in as a service fashion, so that the teams become self-organized. These 4 topologies are stream-aligned teams, which means teams that are essentially delivering value to the customers. Complicated subsystem teams, usually teams that handle a complicated area of the service, such as AI, machine learning, or mathematical algorithms. Enabling teams, teams that enable new practices within the organization. For example, DevOps or any new other practice could be improved in the organization by an enabling team. Platform teams, teams that provide internal services or tooling for other teams. I often talk about self-organized teams, and I think many people immediately think that the teams need to look exactly the same to be self-organized. Actually, oftentimes the contrary is true. Organizations provide end-to-end value best when the self-organized teams support each other and are in one way or another aligned to serving the end users. The second area of my dichroic cube is about innovations and developer experience. I will try to focus on the innovations that have potential of improving the developer experience and help organizations to serve their development better in the middle of increasing number of tools and services, supporting the delivery, but making the development experience more complicated. There are 3 innovation areas I'll bring up. They are shared as screenshots in my presentation, but I'll talk you through each, and you're naturally welcome to find out more yourselves after my presentation. Also, it's best to mention if you have any questions, just post them in, and I can answer them after my presentation.
Hi, we are Eficode, and we organize the DevOps Conference. We believe that at the heart of DevOps is the culture of continuous learning and experimentation, and we would love to speak to you about how we could help you do DevOps better. You can find us at eficode.com. The links are in the description, and have a great time with the DevOps Conference talks.
A bit over half a year ago, the development world was introduced the GitHub Copilot, the first plugin assistant for not only code completion, but actual AI-based code generation. I naturally tested it immediately by doing my son at Aalto University Python course exercises with it. With the Copilot, I was able to develop the Monty Hall problem in mere minutes, jumping over the hoops of initiating arrays and asking users inputs and having the few algorithms in place. So thus, Copilot is in a way trying to approach the benefits of low code from the software developer's point of view, being able to reuse components and algorithms in an intelligent and effortless way. Even while it might be a bit irritating with its completion proposals at times, it has already made its way to the regular developer's toolbox. I'm also sure this is just one of the first examples of AI-assisted tooling that we're going to receive in the near future. To me, AI-assisted coding, or some call it glorified code completion, has similar potential as when unit tests became mainstream 15 years ago. The test tooling finally crossed the threshold of being easy enough to use, and so the benefits of a test harness overcame the cognitive load of writing test cases. However, that remains to be seen. You should already know that organizations have spent significant time building their continuous delivery capabilities. As a result, many of the new DevOps ventures have taken these practices and built their services from the ground up to support those new practices, usually provided as a service. Heroku was the first one to ship this kind of services, where the developers did not have any infrastructure. Just a simple commit and push was enough. But today, services such as Vercel and Netlify take it even further. They enable users to deploy every single commit as a separate deployment and connect it to your favorite version control, such as GitHub or GitLab, so that your development flow stays as it is, but as you commit, the application is constantly deployed in the background. It's actually interesting that Wordle was created as a community edition already in the beginning of January and was released using Vercel. And still, the New York Times purchased the original version of the game from Josh Wardle. These services can also be used for very efficient testing of separate new features or branches, thus breaking the traditional staging and production thinking. It just happens automatically. Every new branch is deployed and is accessible separately. For bigger deployments, and including ops with its monitoring, incident management, etc., you would have similar but more versatile services, for example, Pulumi or Control Plane, that help you deploy your bigger and more complicated application with little or no ops. Pulumi has also made infrastructure as code being real code and not just configuration, which is also hopefully a game changer in the future. The third area of the innovation axis is security, and today it's becoming part of the natural continuous delivery flow. We've seen DevSecOps become just DevOps, as it should. Today we can easily presume that all code is unsecure. And if it's not unsecure today, it might become unsecure tomorrow with the introduction of a vulnerability in a dependency. Even though these modern AI-assisted development tools and services are super effective, there is still limited knowledge on the security implications. They contain many unknown factors. GitHub Copilot, for example, might propose code that's very much unsecure, and an unaware or uneducated developer might end up releasing it publicly. This is also why the modern development ecosystems include many embedded security tools, such as container scanning, secret detection, license compliance, DAST and SAST, which are dynamic application security testing and static application security testing, just to name a few. Security should be taken at least as seriously as the other parts of the innovation axis. And while the others are being implemented, the security area should be built to support that. The third axis of modern development is what's currently happening both in the market and within all organizations: consolidation. Both DevOps tooling ecosystems and organizations tooling are being consolidated. Same thing that the public cloud providers have been doing, consolidating ops tooling under their own offering, is happening to DevOps tooling today. The big players such as Atlassian, GitLab, GitHub seek to provide the end-to-end capabilities, thus providing the complementary tooling rather as components or plugins than as separate tools that need configuring and maintaining. At the same time, a majority of big organizations have multiple instances of Jenkins or GitLab or Atlassian Jira running, all serving a small part of the organization, instead of having one where you would be able to build the end-to-end capabilities or pull analytics of the whole information flow. Consolidating both the tooling ecosystem and organizational tool chains have the same primary targets: unifying the information flow and decreasing the waste of maintaining DevOps tool chains. The second purpose of consolidation is to reduce the cognitive load, to let the teams focus on creating value instead of configuring or even worse, maintaining their tooling. Forrester made a research a few years ago where they saw that 10% of developers' time is spent on maintaining their DevOps tool chain. They also saw that spending that time on tooling did not have a positive effect on the team's capability of innovating. Bringing the tooling together and providing the tool chains as a consolidated service is addressing exactly that problem. Tools that made you fast yesterday might make you slow tomorrow. Last year, we had a bit of a debate if Jenkins is legacy or not. I'm not going to go further back into that rabbit hole, but I am going to say that Jenkins is a really good example of a tool that's still relevant to many. But not many new projects or organizations honestly start their DevOps journey would select it as their continuous delivery tool of choice. The same is happening to many other tools that have been the backbone of modern DevOps capabilities. They are being replaced with services and no-ops tooling, and it also requires that the organizations are ready to change along with it. I would also encourage you to look into your organization's DevOps tooling and trying to identify the tools that have been self-made or heavily forked, and find out if these could be replaced with a modern or more popular alternative. That should be a relatively easy area to start freeing your valuable time to serve the end users. With the availability of DevOps tools and practices, and even while delivering new services has never been easier, I can claim that developing new services has become harder. As a recap, DevOps is not at all about new tools and practices. It's about building capabilities to measure and improve value change together with everyone in the organization. It's about experimentation and sharing the best practices. It's about psychological safety. With novel DevOps services readily accessible for everyone, healthy, agile, and DevOps culture is the source of success in delivering great digital services. Modern organizations build value by building a healthy organizational culture where experimentation is encouraged and the cognitive load is reduced with smart, consolidated tooling and agile team topologies. These companies foster innovation and find ways to share it across the organization. Before I send you out to enjoy the fascinating 2 days of the DevOps conference, I have one more thing to share. You probably haven't noticed, but a duck named Larry has been hiding in my presentation today. It's actually the same duck that I'm currently wearing. One of our employees, Alex Simel, had an idea of explaining what DevOps is with the means of comics. He has now finished the first of the series, DevOps Assessments, and you will find the comic from eficode.com/duckops. In the comic, you will also find Larry, the duck in my t-shirt. Turns out he is the most productive member of the team. I thank you all for listening. Enjoy the 2 days ahead of you. And as one could say, don't worry, be Larry.
Don't worry, be Larry. How about that? Thank you, Marko. We have
Thank you.
a bunch of questions.
Oh man, of course. Sounds good.
I'm start from the beginning of the presentation, but we come then. And please, everybody, keep on having the questions coming. One of the questions was, what would you say to somebody who is interested in DevOps but lacks the knowledge and skills? What's the good place to start?
So, of course, as everything today, you cannot know everything. So for me, the two clear places would be going online and searching for the simple tutorials on the topic. There has been so much good things written about it. But the second part is finding a person who does know. And not just asking, but doing together. That's so when XP was introduced somewhere in the 90s, end of 90s, it included pair programming. And you can still debate if, for example, the Copilot or pair programming is more efficient. So doing something together with someone who knows today, in my opinion, is the best way to learn.
Cool.
Yeah. Another question, how much coding skills are required from a system administrator to get going with DevOps? Would you say?
So that I'm just going to be honest. Systems administrator is, to me today, very close to a developer. So that's also what DevOps is about, being able to be a systems administrator if you like coding, or being able to code some if you're a systems administrator. And of course, like if I talked about, for example, Vercel, that's like a click and go type of a service. But then if you're a systems administrator and you have an actual need you want to develop, I would say that the tutorials online, once again, if you want to learn, say, React or Vue or some other like UI-based language, for a systems administrator, it should be relatively easy.
Cool.
Just going for it.
Excellent. Okay. One more question. I mean, we have some time. So
Yes, we do.
how do you think organizations should approach tooling consolidation?
So that's a good question. So as said, it all starts from, if we look at any of the processes happening within organizations today, I would say that it starts from knowing where you are today. So when you go to a big organization, it often comes as a surprise that you did have the 4 GitLab instances running around the organization, or that you would have put your Atlassian Jiras here and there have been teams who are very much advanced in their processes and what you today would call shadow IT, but of course has been beneficial for the team, means that there's a tool that's used somewhere else as well. So it starts from the knowledge, where you are today, and then starting to make the plan on consolidation.
Okay.
I think 2 years ago you talked about zero-day delivery. And there's a related question about the requirements to deploy on every commit. Do they only deploy on 100% test coverage to avoid bugs escaping from the field? Or is it restricted to very specific industries such as online services?
So I would say online services is a good example, and I'm happy to use it here because it's such a simple area. So as said, the world is not as easy as deploying a website, even while you can see there's much business value, such as Wordle. there's the enjoyment and the business value, even while it's literally just a website. So the answer would be the optimum situation is where you deliver every commit with a threshold that's low enough to give you the feeling of security that it's going to work. And Wordle is a good example. So the open source variant was delivered through Vercel. And if someone is interested, they could use whichever platform for deploying it, honestly. But like forking the repository and then putting it in a platform that works as a CDN is enough. So it's actually just mouse clicking, maybe 4 or 5 clicks, and you have delivered it. But then as the service gets more complicated, starts to get some test coverage, you would like to add those also into the build pipeline. But it doesn't have to change the fact that you still deliver each commit or branch or pull request.
Right.
And the main thing I'm actually taking away from what you've just said was today's Wordle.
What's today's Wordle?
Have you done your Wordle?
No, I haven't.
Damn it, I was hoping it would just flip out. Okay.
Don't spoil it.
Okay, sorry. A more serious question, please.
Yeah, I have to say, I didn't even think of that. Oh, no. I've been so focused.
I was really hoping it would come out, but okay.
Yeah. But I promise to you, it will take me less guesses after this presentation than it would have taken me before.
Excellent. Cool.
One question from Rasmus Falkenberg. In a new Agile organization with a little experience, how do we get Agile teams with no QR resources to focus on QA/software testing as part of the task?
Man. So I guess there are 2 answers to that question. The first one would be, of course, who makes sure that the application works? And if the answer is the same developers, as it kind of should be in a modern organization, then the motivation is there to kind of automate it instead of doing it yourself every time over and over and over again. And there is a certain threshold. As I said, unit testing existed for like tens of years already, but it became mainstream after the threshold was lower than the benefits. So I would say the motivation is there, probably. So that's a very good starting point. And the other side is then just honestly going for it. Like everything that you would do today, you would first like pilot or test it out yourself. Then you would talk it to your peers, which would be a team, and looking at how did it work. It does work, and then starting the expansion. Michael Feathers, I guess, wrote the book Working with Legacy Code. And there is it's really old book, but it's still very much relevant. And there he talks about testing new features first and showing that the things work and going with the easy parts. And then when you make changes to the legacy code, you start slowly adding in the test coverage there.
Right.
So you don't have to stop everything today and start building the test coverage, but instead you know that this part of software is working today. We have relative certainty. So when we make changes to this and this and this component, then we would add the testing. And of course, like the tooling, you would have either unit testing, which is code testing code, or then you would have acceptance testing, which is then more abstract level of test language that you would put on top.
And I guess people will be hearing more about this throughout the 2 days in the continuous everything. And
yes, absolutely. The keywords there would be, so for example, robot framework, obviously.
Yeah.
But then Cypress is also something that's gaining popularity. And I guess Playwright, which are the tools that you would go ahead and use and try the examples and see that, okay, I was able to test my application.
Another question from the audience. I'm a DevSecOps engineer, and I want to know if there is any effective tools for vulnerability in DevOps operations.
So I guess there are many. So we even have sponsors in this event that do exactly that. So there are like Secure Code Warrior approaches it from a different perspective, but then there is, for example, Sneak that you would use. And then, so as said, I mentioned some of the ones that GitLab has under their umbrella. which are for example, the dynamic application security testing, DAST, which is then testing, for example, OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities that you would actually run not as part necessarily of the continuous delivery pipeline, but regularly. As said, as new vulnerabilities are introduced, it might lead into a situation where your application hasn't changed a bit, but yesterday it was okay, today it's vulnerable, which means that you want to run the security part of your pipeline not only during the build time, but also regularly.
Cool. Yeah.
Cool. We only have maybe 1 more minute for one more question. And because we said the human factor in DevOps, let me plug this one in. Any advice for transitioning to blameless company culture?
Oh man, that's hard because it has. So I guess last year and the year before that, I was talking lots about the management buy-in. I haven't mentioned it today because it's one of those same things as the cloud environments and continuous delivery and all that, something that already in a way exists. So I guess the blameless culture comes from people working together, even in the remote time, trying to collaborate together and share the risks. As Westrom said, going into the generative direction, where you share the risks, where you look at the failures as root causes and not blaming anyone, and then having the management buy-in into the operations in such a way that they give permission to try out and innovate things, also around the blameless side.
Great. And we'll have the management and culture track coming up.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
People who are interested in that, please join. Thanks, Marko, for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for your questions and active discussion in chat.